the small town of Churchill on Hudson Bay in the Canadian Arctic. It's a tiny isolated settlement, reachable only by air, boat or a 36-hour train journey from Winnipeg. Many of the people who live here are Inuit, whose ancestors have lived here for centuries. There's not much here, just a handful of shops, a motel and a few residential streets, home to around 1,000 people. But the human population is in fact outnumbered in Churchill by polar bears. More than 90% of Canada's polar bear population lives here, which is why Churchill has been nicknamed the polar bear capital of the world. I was one of a group of volunteers. We were staying at the Churchill Northern Studies Centre on a 10-day research and holiday trip with the international conservation organisation Earthwatch. The base was once a military rocket launching site during the Cold War, but is now a research and education facility. Our mission was to assist in an ongoing research study of the Arctic permafrost conducted by climate scientists. We'd spend the days out in the Arctic permafrost taking measurements of the depth of the permafrost with an array of scientific equipment that ranged from the Heath Robinson to the highly technological. We used an instrument called a GPR, or ground penetrating radar, along with surveying equipment, tree coring paraphernalia, and even some medieval technology, or at least that's how it looked to me, of a rod which measured how deep the permafrost was. The reason the scientists need all this data is because locked up in the permafrost in the northern latitude is 25% of the world's carbon and methane. If this melted and were released into the atmosphere, the effect for the planet could be catastrophic. On our day off, we joined the tourists who come from all over the world to view the polar bears of Churchill, all from the safety of a tundra buggy, I may add. This lone female was very hungry indeed. She probably hadn't eaten a proper meal in 4 months. It's during the late summer that the bears gather on the shores of Lake Hudson as the ice freezes, which allows them to resume hunting the ring seals, which inhabit the frozen wastes further north. We had been measuring the effects of global warming, and while the winter comes later these days, when it does come, it comes with an intensity that was hard to bear. The sudden snowstorms announced the advance of winter were as fierce as anything I'd ever seen.